Good. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahavidyan Karava Vahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Good. Welcome to you all. Welcome also to our many students watching these classes online. Are we recording? Okay. Okay. We have arrived after a long time at the final verses of the Bhagavad Gita. We began in 2021. I'll get the date right this time. And we started online during the pandemic. And of course, it's wonderful to have our live classes back again and to see all of you each week in class. Even though, I have quite a few comments to make, but I think most of those comments we'll save for the end of the class after we finish our study. So let us begin with some recitation, beginning with verse 72. Make sure this is working. Would you click? Oh, it did? Oh, okay. Good. Now see here. As always, when I'm chanting, read the translation and then repeat after me. Right. We're going to start here. Okay. Repeat after me, please. Arjno vacha, nashto moha smritir labdha, nashto moha smritir labdha, tvat prasaran maya chuta, stitos migata sandeha, Karishye vachanam tava, Sanjayo vacha, Ityaham vasudevasya, Parthasya cha mahatmanaha, samvaramimamashrousham, adbhutam romaharshanam, Vyasaprasarachutavan, etadguhyamaham param, yogam yogeshwarat krishnat, sakshat katayata swayam, rajan samsmritya, samvaramimamabhutam, keshavarjunayoh punyam, Hrishyami cha muhurmuhu, tacha samsmritya, rupamatyadbhutam harehe, vismayo me mahan rajan, Hrishyami cha punah punaha yatra yogeshwara Krishno yatra yogeshwara Krishno yatra partho dhanurdharaha yatra partho dhanurdharaha Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutir Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Nice to chant those final verses. So, we begin today where we left off last week, and that is with the concluding words of Sanjaya. Remember Sanjaya? And Dhritarashtra, remember where the Bhagavad Gita began, where King Dhritarashtra utters his one and only verse in the Bhagavad Gita, where he asks Sanjaya, what is happening there on the battlefield between my sons and the sons of Pandus. And you know also from prior classes or from what you've heard before, that Sanjaya, who was Dhritarashtra's charioteer, the king being blind, they weren't on the battlefield, they were back at the palace. And Sanjaya had previously been blessed by the sage Vyasa, Rishi Vyasa, with Divya Drishti, being able to see and hear everything happening on the far-off battlefield. And the entire Bhagavad Gita is actually narrated by Sanjaya. So the dialogue between Arjuna and Sri Krishna is narrated by Sanjaya to the blind king Dhritarashtra, and that's what we've been studying all these months. So the dialogue as conveyed by Sanjaya to the blind king Dhritarashtra. Something that you may or may not know is this narration didn't take place on the same day as the Bhagavad Gita was narrated. So this dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna took place on the morning of the first day of the 18 days of battle. Day 1, morning, before the battle began. That's when the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna took place. That's not when Sanjaya is narrating all this to Dhritarashtra. It turns out that Dhritarashtra waited until the 10th day of the war to ask Sanjaya what's going on. Now, why would he wait 10 days? A couple of reasons. One is, the main one perhaps, is that Dhritarashtra was actually quite cowardly, and he didn't want to hear all the bad news. He knew in advance that his army would fail, and he didn't want to hear all of about the gruesome death of all of his 100 sons on the battlefield. He didn't want to hear about that. So he didn't ask, but then on day 10 he did ask. Why? I should actually go back to the original and read through, but I'm pretty sure the reason is that Dhritarashtra had been informed that the general, the leader of his army, Bhishma, Pitamaha, had just fallen on the battlefield. Remember, he wasn't killed, he was incapacitated, you know, the story of the bed of arrows and all of that. So, and we'll leave the story out, but Bhishma was incapacitated on the battlefield. I think it was Drona who then became the leader of the army. But when the blind king Dhritarashtra heard that Bhishma fell, he was very concerned. Therefore, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre, Duryodhana asked, on that battlefield, on the field of Dharma, what took place on that battlefield? And the rest is then narrated. So what we're studying then, You know how TV broadcasts are sometimes delayed? So what we're getting is a 10-day broadcast delay, so to speak. But it means we're not missing out on anything. We're just getting it a little bit. Of course, we're getting it all thousands of years later, but that's beside the point. Okay, so with that introduction, now you know the context. Sanjaya has been diligently narrating all of this to King Dhritarashtra. Now, Arjuna says, I'm ready to go, ready to fight. And Sanjaya then utters the concluding verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Sanjaya vacha, ityaham vasudevasya, parthasya cha mahatmanaha, samvaramimamashrosham adbhutam romaharshanam. Sanjaya says, iti, thus, aham, I, and now go down to the end of the third line. Aham ashrausham, I heard. Nice past tense verb for our Sanskrit students. Aham ashrausham, I heard. What? Samvadam, dialogue. Imam samvadam, I heard this dialogue. Dialogue means two, so dialogue between whom? Vasudevasya, there's dialogue between Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva is Vasudeva, and Parthasya, Partha, the son of Kunti, Arjuna, who is described here as Mahatmanaha, the mighty one. I heard this dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, the mighty one. This dialogue, which Sanjaya describes as adbhutam, amazing. I think the young people today, totally awesome, or even chill. Although I think chill has a little different meaning here. Anyway, totally awesome. And Roma Harshanam. Literally, it makes the hair on your body stand up. And I find it interesting that Sanskrit differentiates between hair on your head, which is called kesha, and hair on your body, which is called Roma. How many languages differentiate that? I don't know. Anyway, kesha and Roma, so Roma Harshanam makes the hair on your body rise. It is thrilling. Then, Vyasa prasada chutavan, etad guhyamaham param, yogam yogeshwarat krishnat, sakshat katayata swayam. Buried in the middle of the second line is aham, I, the subject of the sentence. Aham, I, back up to the top line, Shutavan, I heard what? Etat, this, we have to jump around quite a bit here. I heard this, etat yogam. Here yogam in a sense of teaching, spiritual teaching. I heard etat yogam, this spiritual teaching, which is param, the supreme spiritual teaching, which is guhyam, secret. We've talked about that word before. It is so secret that if you tell someone to their face, it remains secret. That's how secret it is. Secret in the sense that if you are not spiritually prepared to receive these teachings, as the American expression says, in one ear and out the other. So it remained, that's the idea of secret here. Something very unique, special. And so Sanjaya says, I heard this amazing teaching, this special teaching, Vyasa Prasadat, due to the blessings of Vyasa. Blessings in the form of that power, that Divya Drishti, divine sight, that Vyasa blessed Sanjaya with. And to conclude, Sanjaya says he heard it Yogeshwarat Krishnat. He heard it from Krishna, who is Yogeshwara, the Lord of Yoga. So he heard this yoga, spiritual teaching, from Yogeshwara, from the Lord of Yoga, from the source of yoga. We talked about that in our meditation. So here, Sri Krishna is acknowledged as the source. Sri Krishnat, Yogeshwarat, Sakshat, directly from Sri Krishna, Katayata Swayam, as he himself said. So here Sanjaya acknowledges Sri Krishna as the very source of his spiritual teachings, the spiritual teachings which uttered by Sri Krishna, recorded by Vyasa in the Mahabharata. We're studying the 700 verse excerpt, this little portion of the Mahabharata, and it has been passed on generation after generation to modern times. The significance, though, of this flow of knowledge from ancient times to modern times, I mentioned this before also, we observe that that which flows is subject to, well, the example, I need to bring that metaphor back in. We discussed before the Jnana Ganga, very beautiful metaphor that compares teachings to the flow of the Ganga. Jnana means knowledge. Jnana Ganga is metaphorically the spiritual river of knowledge that flows from ancient times to the modern times. And the metaphor based on the Ganga definitely points to the fact that the modern Ganga that flows in India today, it emerges from the glacier at 15,000 feet of elevation, absolutely pristine. And then it starts flowing down. In fact, it's called Bhagirathi at that point. It's not called Ganga yet. It's the Bhagirathi River starts flowing down. This is the Garhwal Himalaya, the part of Uttarakhand, and it starts flowing down. It comes finally to Rishikesh and Hardwar, where I stayed for so long, and it's still fairly pure and pristine at that point. But as many of you know, as it continues its flow down through Uttar Pradesh, by the time it gets to Varanasi, just before you go into Bihar, it's pretty polluted. There's lots of human waste, also lots of industry. In fact, in Varanasi itself, it's a center of weaving. Wherever you have weaving, you have dyeing of cloth. And when you dye, the dyed water is disposed undiluted into the river. Pollution. And I don't want to make a big thing of it, but it's symbolic and metaphoric here because these teachings of Sri Krishna found in the Mahabharata have flowed down now for several thousands of years. The date of the Mahabharata, by the way, we date scriptures according to their language, styles of, this is worth noting. It's not too difficult to date language according to its style. When you read the Declaration of Independence, sounds kind of old-fashioned, right? When you read Shakespeare, even more old-fashioned. You can actually date. You're not an expert linguist, but you're good enough to say, this Declaration of Independence must be a couple hundred years old. The Shakespeare sounds even older than that. So it's not difficult to date literary compositions based on language. So based on literary evidence, we know that the approximate date of the Mahabharata is about 2,000 years ago, approximately. Of course, the Mahabharata was compiled over a period of time, but it took its current form about 2,000 years ago, again, based on its language. I'm not saying that the battle took place 2,000 years ago or Sri Krishna lived 2,000 years ago. I don't think it's possible to accurately determine those dates. But using linguistic evidence, we know. Mahabharata, therefore the Bhagavad Gita, the text is roughly 2,000 years ago. So if the Ganga gets polluted in several, it must be 3,000 miles long, I think. I don't know the exact length. It's one of the longest rivers in the world. So it picks up pollution as it goes on. In the same way, over these 2,000 years, as the Mahabharata has been taught and retaught, as the Bhagavad Gita has been taught and retaught, it's also subject to the same, not pollution, but distortions and misinterpretations. And I commented before, and I'd like to make that comment again right now. We have a great privilege in being able to go to the source. So by going to the Sanskrit text, which we do here every week, we go to the source. That's the equivalent of leaving Varanasi behind, driving all the way up in the Himalayas. You can drive as far as Gangotri, and then you get out of your car and you hike another 15 miles up to Gomukh, where the glacier leaves where the river leaves the glacier and the water is absolutely pristine. So just as you can go up to Gangotri for the pristine source, when we go to the Sanskrit, we are doing the same. We have that privilege of going to the source. One other part of that metaphor, I don't think I've ever used this before, but it's interesting. When the river exits into the Bay of Bengal, I've never been there, by the way, never been to Calcutta, but I've seen on maps that the Ganga branches out in many ways, like fingers, and they call it mouths of the Ganga. Hindi mein kya kehte? What did they say in Hindi? How would you say that? Mouths of... Is there a common expression? Maybe not. Or in Bengali, I don't know. Anyway, on maps, there's called mouths of the Ganga. And the other end of the Ganga is at a place called Gomukh. So the mouth of the cow is literally what it means. And the word go can have many, many meanings. I have a feeling here I don't know how it came about. Maybe somebody thought that the cave underneath the glacier maybe looked somehow like a cow. I don't know. Anyway, Gomukh, mukha, mouth. So Gomukh is the mouth. In fact, we say the mouth of a glacier. Actually, we say foot of a glacier. Anyway, so it emerges out of this cave called Gomukh, the mouth. So up at the top, it's got one mouth. At the bottom, it has many mouths where it exits into the Bay of Bengal. So one mouth is the source. And in our context, the source is Sri Krishna. So one Sri Krishna uttering these teachings, coming down through the ages and many mouths. My mouth is one of how many? Countless teachers of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so this is the metaphor, Sri Krishna as the source. And Sanjay uses this nice word, Yogeshwara. This yoga was taught by Yogeshwara. The spiritual teaching was taught by the source of the spiritual teachings, Sri Krishna. Okay, then. Rajan samsmritya samsmritya Rajan samsmritya samsmritya Samvaramimam adbhutam Keshavarjunayoh punyam Hrishyami cha muhurmuhuhu Hrishyami cha muhurmuhuhu. Rajan, O king, Sanjaya addresses King Dhritarashtra, samsmritya, remembering this dialogue, actually, let's just let him say, samsmritya, remembering again and again, remembering what? Samvadam, dialogue. Imam samvadam, this dialogue. Imam adbhutam samvadam, this amazing dialogue, this totally awesome dialogue, and the dialogue which is punyam, sacred, holy. So remembering again and again this amazing sacred dialogue, Krishna Arjuna Yoho, between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, remembering it again and again, Hrishyami, I am elated, I rejoice, muhur, again and again. Now, remember, according to what I said in the introduction, this is 10 days after the fact. Sanjaya witnessed this dialogue 10 days ago. He's still excited about it. Suppose something wonderful happened to you. After 10 days, you forget about it. Sanjay hasn't forgotten about this. This is something so amazing. It's very much, what would we say, indelibly imprinted into Sanjaya's mind. Then, Tacha samsmritya Rupamatyadbhutam harehe Vismayo me mahan rajan Hrishyami cha punaha Hrishyami cha punah. Tacha, and also samsmritya, remembering again and again, but remembering something different. Prior verse was remembering the dialogue. This verse is remembering the ati adbhutam rupam. The rupam, the form. Whose form? Harehe, of Hari, of Lord Krishna. The form of Lord Krishna, which is ati adbhutam, total, more amazing than amazing. What is he referring to, of course? Remember in chapter 11, the Vishwarupa Darshana, where Arjuna asks to see Sri Krishna's cosmic form. Lord Krishna endows Arjuna with the capacity to see, also that divya drishti. Just as Vyasa endowed Sanjaya with divya drishti, here Sri Krishna endows Arjuna with divya drishti so that Arjuna can see Sri Krishna's cosmic form. It's an amazing chapter. You can go back and study it if you haven't already. So here, Sanjaya is reflecting on 10 days ago. Not only did he kind of eavesdrop on that dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, but just as Arjuna had divya drishti to see Sri Krishna's cosmic form, so did Sanjaya. So Sanjaya from the palace also witnessed Sri Krishna's cosmic form revealed there on the battlefield, no one else on the battlefield could see. Only Arjuna on the battlefield and Sanjaya back in the palace, they could witness that cosmic form. And again, this is 10 days ago, and Sanjaya is still amazed. It still preoccupies his mind because of the powerful nature of that revelation. So Sanjaya says in the third line, Rajan, O king, me vismayaha, my amazement is mahan. I am greatly amazed. I am astounded. We run out of adjectives for something like this. I don't know what to say. Totally awesome. What else to do? Use your own words. In fact, Sri Krishna's word is Ascharyavat. Ascharya is something that's amazing. Yeah, you would say what? Chamatkar, you would say. So same sense, that which is amazing, that which is miraculous. So that's the sense here. So I am, O king, I am just totally amazed, and hrishyami, again, I revel, I rejoice, punaha, again and again, even after 10 days. Sanjaya is continuing to revel in this vision. Now we come to the very last verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutir, Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutir, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Yatra, where? Where there is Sri Krishna, who is Yogeshwara, that nice word used again here. Where there is Sri Krishna, who is the Lord of these spiritual teachings, and Yatra, where there is Partha, the son of Kunti, who is Dhanurdharaha, the one with the bow, who refers to Arjuna. Wherever there is Sri Krishna and Arjuna, Yatra, where you find Sri Krishna and Arjuna, Tatra, there, Dhruva, most certainly, there will be Shrihi, wealth, maybe blessings, I think would be a better translation here. There would be blessings, Vijayaha, victory, Bhutihi, fame, glory, and Nitihi. Niti here in the sense of dharma. Iti matir mama, this is my opinion, Sanjaya says, wherever there is Sri Krishna and Arjuna, there is dharma and victory and blessings. And there's some symbolism to be understood here. Way back to 2021, when we began our study of the Bhagavad Gita, we discussed the symbolism of the battlefield, and we said that the battlefield was significant in several ways. One way was a battle in our minds, but the most common interpretation of that battlefield is a battle between dharma and adharma. On one side is Sri Krishna and Arjuna, the side of dharma. On the other side is of course, Duryodhana, who is the symbol of all that is nasty and terrible in the world. But significantly, there is the absence of Sri Krishna on the Kaurava side. So there's a presence of Sri Krishna on the Pandava side of the battlefield, and the absence of Sri Krishna on the Kaurava side of the battlefield. Symbolism is pretty clear. One is the side of dharma, and the other is the side of adharma. And the principle being referred to here by Sanjaya is the principle that dharma always prevails in the long run. You have to add that part on. In the long run, dharma always prevails. In the short run, we see all kinds of adharma taking place around us in the world, in our lives, in politics. Oh my gosh. Anyway, just so much adharma in the world, and sometimes people get depressed. Oh my gosh, when will, what to do with all this adharma? Here, if you understand dharma properly, you will know that dharma always prevails in the long run. Why? The dharma we're talking about is not some kind of concept or invention of mankind. The rules of mankind are not dharma. They're rules of mankind. Governments can make up their own laws, doesn't make them dharma. So dharma, as some of you remember from classes we've had before, dharma is the intelligent, and to use my guru's words, so nothing better. Dharma is the intelligent order of the cosmos. This, if you're hearing this for the first time, it may take a few minutes to grasp this idea. Dharma, the word dharma, of course, has many, many meanings. Its root meaning, dra, means to hold, to sustain. So in the most fundamental sense, dharma is what holds the universe together. Dharma is that which sustains everything. And now to go back to my guru's words, that dharma then we can understand as the universal and intelligent order that makes the universe function. The order that makes planets circle the sun, the order that makes electrons circle the nuclei. This is fundamental order in the universe. Notice there is randomness in the world, but the universe is not random, right? We are not random bits of biology. We are highly ordered, intelligent beings put together in a way that's there is nothing known to man more complicated than a human brain. The most complicated existence is a human brain. Nothing more complicated. How did all of this come about? And you say, oh, yeah, it's all this Darwin. It evolved from single-celled animals and then up the chain of evolution until you come to human beings, all of which is fine. Hinduism has no quarrel with evolution, which is a good thing. Other religions continue to quarrel with evolution. Who do you think will win those arguments in the long run? Not religion. Someone who argues that God created Adam and Eve 4044 BC. They have an exact date. 4044 BC. On that particular date, must have been a Tuesday morning, I suppose. Sorry, being a little silly here. God created Adam and Eve. So you get the idea that these naive religious teachings will not stand the test of time. Fortunately, the Hindu doctrine of reincarnation and the cosmology, the creation of the universe, all of it is not contrary to science. There's no fundamental conflict, so we'll never end up end up with that problem. So the reason I'm talking about all this is to establish the fact that you and I sit here today because of intelligence that pervades the cosmos, not random bits of matter floating around in space. But there's some intelligence that stuck all those random bits of matter together in such a way that you and I exist. It's mind-boggling when you think. After the Big Bang, sometime after the Big Bang, the only thing that existed was hydrogen atoms. At one point in the evolution of the universe, in fact, before hydrogen atoms, there weren't even atoms, there were particles. Before the particles, there were no particles, there was only energy. But at some point, there were only hydrogen atoms. How to explain the fact that you and I are sitting here today when you reflect on the origin of the cosmos? There had to have been an extraordinary, intelligent order driving all these random bits of matter in such a way that we can sit here today. That intelligent order, that intelligence, is whose intelligence? Intelligence can't exist without one who wields that intelligence. That intelligence belongs to Ishvara, God of the cosmos. Ishvara's intelligence was wielded in such a way to create everything that exists. And according to the doctrine of karma, in order, this is a little bit of an aside, just 1 minute, just to explain. This is a Hindu doctrine of cosmology. How did the universe get created? Well, the universe was in an unmanifest state. The universe didn't come from nothing. Some religions have a doctrine, creatio ex nihilo, creation out of nothing, which is a big swallow, philosophically speaking. It's hard to swallow that, something out of nothing. The Hindu cosmology doesn't say that. The universe was unmanifest, which is a nice parallel with the whatever it was before it went bang, referring to the Big Bang. Whatever it was before it banged. That's what we call the avyakta srishti, the unmanifest universe. So that which is unmanifest becomes manifest due to the cosmic intelligence being wielded by Ishvara. Now you might, if you want to be fussy here, and you should be. Why? Why did Ishvara 14.7 billion years ago, why did he decide at that particular point in time, Tuesday morning, whenever, you get how facetious that is, right? Dates only have meaning when there's an Earth circling the sun. Anyway, you get that. Anyway, on Tuesday morning, when 14.7 billion years ago, why did Ishvara make the unmanifest universe manifest? According to the doctrine of karma, there was a previous universe. In that previous universe, many actions were committed, but the results had not yet fructified. Those unfructified results were in a state of limbo, waiting to manifest themselves. In order for those unfructified karmas to manifest themselves, Ishvara made the universe manifest once again. This is Ishvara's intelligent order to cause the unmanifest universe to become manifest, to cause random bits of matter and energy to assemble themselves into human bodies with these incredibly amazing brains. It's all Ishvara's intelligence. Now, I still haven't answered my question. What is the question? How can we be sure that Dharma prevails in the long run? This Dharma, understood properly, not Dharma as rules and conventions created by human beings. That's not what we're talking about. Dharma as the natural order of the universe. The universe as it unfolds according to Ishvara's intelligence. So here we can redefine Dharma here in a little different way. It is Dharma, by the way, Dharma also means attribute. You may not know that. The Dharma of water is to be wet. The word Dharma has that among its many meanings. So try this. The Dharma of planets is to circle the sun. Natural, according to Ishvara's intelligence. The Dharma of electrons is to form a cloud around a nucleus. This is the natural order of the universe. And from that biggest picture, Dharma then refers to the fact that Ishvara's intelligent order cannot be obstructed in the long run. Ishvara's intelligent order cannot be obstructed in the long run. In the short run, no problem. Part of Ishvara's natural order is gravity, law of gravity. In the short run, no problem. Get on a plane and go flying around the world. So for several hours, you actually can resist the force of gravity in the short run, not in the long run. Dharma, now Dharma in the sense of righteousness. Dharma in the sense of righteousness will prevail in the long run. In the short run, anything goes. But if we understand Dharma in terms of Ishvara's intelligence, you can resist it in the short run, but in the long run, Ishvara's intelligent order will prevail. The Pandavas with Sri Krishna and Arjuna, on that side, there was Dharma. Tatra, there. Yogeshwara Krishna. There where there is Sri Krishna, Parthaha Dhanurdharaha, and where there is Arjuna, that is the side of Dharma. That side will always prevail. The other side, Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, without Sri Krishna, without Dharma, they will not prevail. So this last verse refers then to this universal Dharma which always prevails. I had a metaphor. I like metaphors. Sometimes metaphors work, sometimes they don't. Try this one, just to get an idea of this Dharma. We see today that human beings are doing great harm to this planet. And climate warming is in the news every single day, and we're seeing the consequences of that. It's interesting, and many people have thought about what would happen in the absence of human beings on this planet. And they theorize, suppose there's a city, and everyone left that city. And there are cities like that, where everyone leaves. So suppose everyone leaves the city, and you go back to that city in 100 years. The city will still be standing, right? But there'll be plants poking up everywhere in the city. So the roads will turn into tree-lined avenues. Anyway, you know how vegetation takes over. By the way, do any of you have gardens? How are your weeds doing? Nature is a powerful force. You leave your garden alone for a week or two and those weeds take over. Well, think about this city being unpopulated for 100 years. Weeds will take over. Now go back to that city in 1,000 years. In 1,000 years, mostly the structures will have crumbled. Nature will have reclaimed that city. So the point, this is an illustration, a metaphor, I'm not sure how good it is, to illustrate how Ishvara's cosmic order is, fancy word, inexorable, unstoppable. In the short run, you can build your buildings and plant and pave the streets. In the long run, Ishvara's order will prevail. Not human will, but Ishvara's will. And that's expressed here in this very last verse. Okay. Feels good to have completed the study of the Bhagavad Gita. I mentioned before, and I'll mention again, that I consider myself really privileged and blessed to be able to teach this wonderful text again and again. As I said, taught it 4 times here, taught it once before coming here, when I was at Arsha Vidya Gurukulam. So every time I study it, it helps me more and more, blesses me more and more. And I'm pretty sure that's true for you as well. I think many of you are not studying the Bhagavad Gita for the first time, and you've discovered what I've discovered, and that is this text, the more time you spend with it, the more you study it, the more you are blessed by it. I think you cannot but come to that conclusion. Some important announcements here. One is, the slides we have been using for all of this includes this line-by-line translation, which, by the way, is unique. You won't find that ordinarily. You'll find a translation at the bottom. Here, the translation is broken up line by line so that you can start to make connections between the Sanskrit words and the English words. I think that's really important. As I said, this is going to the source. So the source happens to be these Sanskrit words that we have in the Bhagavad Gita. So all of these slides, 700 slides, have been compiled into what you might call an e-book. It's in a PDF format for you computer people. Anyway, we've just published it on our website. So you can go to the website, you can view all 18 chapters in this format. You can also download a copy if you want it. It's all freely available. So we're very happy to make this more widely available, this particular translation. I mentioned before that after studying this Bhagavad Gita, we're not quite done because we'd like to study the Gita Dhyana, certain meditation verses, prayer verses that are usually recited before each class. We've chosen not to recite them each time. Instead, what we do is recite some verses of the Bhagavad Gita, but these verses are beautiful and deserve to be studied. So it'll take us several classes to go through the verses of the Gita Dhyana. And after we conclude that, then one last little bit on Bhagavad Gita is we'll do an overview of all 18 chapters using my English translation. Many of you are familiar. In fact, we forgot to do that today. Completely forgot to do that today. We generally end each chapter with the English version, and we don't have that today. Anyway, what can we do? It would really be nice to do that. Would you mind? It'll take me just 1 minute to go and find that. We hadn't thought about that in advance. So usually we do. Excuse me. Just get that verse up. Yeah, we're all set. We just need to launch the PowerPoint. So we got all this fancy stuff here. we can figure out how to use it. Okay, got that problem. Down here, we got Gita, we got English, we got chapter 18. We launch chapter 18. Not bad. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. We'll see right here. Look. And we'll see right. Perfect. Well, sort of perfect. Good enough. Actually, yeah, we'll just leave that. Anyway, okay. Sorry for the interruption. This isn't quite right because I'm not in the screen here for our online students. All right. So, many of you are familiar with this English version, which I translated trying to follow the meter of the original Sanskrit so that we can recite this like we recite the Sanskrit. It's also quite abbreviated, and actually chapter 18 is quite a bit abbreviated, so it will just take a few minutes to recite this. Okay, so first verse, listen and repeat, and then we can chant together. Arjuna said, O Krishna, this I want to know. O Krishna, this I want to know. How to discern the difference, how to discern the difference between surrender of works fruits, between surrender of works fruits, and renouncing the worldly life, and renouncing the worldly life. And we can chant together now. Join me, please. The blessed Lord said, to renounce is to cease from works performed for one's own sake alone. Surrender is to disown the fruits of all deeds as an offering. Sacrifice, penance, charity, these works are not to be renounced. They should be done not seeking fruits, but because they have been ordained, renouncing obligated works. Thinking wrongly is tamasic, avoiding duties so despised. Fearing distress is rajasic, performing actions as enjoined, without attachment to their fruits, deeming them duties to be done. To renounce thus is sattva's view, not avoiding repulsive tasks, nor attached to delightful work, giving up the fruits of one's work. Such is a true renunciate. Deluded people take the self to be the agent of all works, but those the wise and egoless are not bound by their deeds at all. Knowledge, knower, and what is known, these impel actions of all kinds, means of action, agent, and act. These factors are involved as well. Those who worship the source of all, pervading the whole universe, by fulfilling duties enjoined, unto perfection they attain. Doing one's duties poorly, though, surpasses doing others well. Performing deeds rightly ordained, no one ever commits a sin. Duty should never be forsworn, even when problems interfere. All deeds entail some obstacles, like a fire enshrouded by smoke. Those free from all attachments here, disciplined and ever content, having ceased from all selfish deeds, they have renounced most perfectly. Arjuna, now learn from me how one can gain the perfect state, how Brahman is to be obtained. Through this knowledge, the ultimate, those endowed with intelligence, self-controlled and dispassionate, purified and contemplative, in Brahman they are fit to merge. Absorbed in Brahman they attain supreme devotion unto me. Thus they know my reality, and thereafter they enter me. Go for refuge to that alone with your whole heart, O Arjuna. Then being blessed you will attain the state of endless peace supreme. Thus unto you I have explained, of all knowledge the most concealed. Reflect on this entirely, then go and do whatever you choose. Be devoted and worship me. Offer sacrifice unto me, then you shall surely come to me. This I promise, for you are dear. Abandon every other goal and seek refuge in me as well. I shall release you from all sin. Be not sorrowful, do not grieve. Arjuna, have you listened now? With a completely focused mind, has your ignorance been destroyed? Has your confusion been removed? Arjuna said, O Krishna, by your holy grace, my confusion has been restrained, and my composure has returned. As you command, so shall I do. Sanjaya said, thus I heard this great dialogue of Lord Krishna and Arjuna. This secret yoga I did hear directly from the Lord himself. O King, as I recall once more that remarkable dialogue, I am astonished and amazed. I rejoice again and again, where Krishna, Lord of Yoga, is, with the great archer Arjuna. There is glory, victory, wealth, and most certainly righteousness. And there we have the end of chapter 18. I'm so glad we came back to include that. And this is what we'll use then for our overview. I mentioned we'll spend several weeks going through the Gita Dhyana, and then we'll start with chapter 1 and just go very quickly through the verses, get the big picture of all 18 chapters. And then I'm extremely happy to announce that our next text will be the famous Uddhava Gita, in which Sri Krishna once again is present as Jagadguru, as the teacher. Here too, instead of Krishna teaching Arjuna, Krishna is teaching Uddhava. So this is a portion of the Bhagavata Purana. So we're going to leave the Mahabharata behind and study these sections of the Bhagavata Purana. I'm really looking forward to that. So after we're done with the following parts of our Bhagavad Gita study, it'll be nice to continue with the Uddhava Gita. Good. Tomorrow, Sunday, we have our satsang question answer at 6 p.m. If the weather is nice, we'll sit out in the picnic area, and we'll conclude today with our brief prayers at the altar. Okay. Stop. They won't sing. Okay. Very good. Om Gananahan Tva Ganapatigam Avamahe Kaving Gavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatahana Shrinvan Utabasida Sadhanam Om Mahaganapataye Namaha Ishvaro Gururhatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyoma Vadvyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramhanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhagvavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat.